extremely important to the ecosystem that we're all working on. I'm curious, just by a quick show of hands, how many of you are working with or for or have founded a startup in the blockchain crypto space? Okay, a good chunk. Investors? Okay, also notable. All right, so we are, I won't walk through all of these, you can all read, but we're, as I noted, 260 strong. We have over 50 protocols supported at this point. We really proclaim the Switzerland status in providing what I really think about as the AWS of Web3. So if you're transacting in crypto online today, or you're with a major financial institution that's starting to operate within this space, you probably are touching Blockdaemon nodes or our services in some way, shape, or form. And a lot of our work is not evident because it's also white labeled and just under the hood. We also have a very strong staking offering with a little over $11 billion US at today's prices staked on our nodes as well. We have a lot of wonderful friends in the space. So across the top are our investors. We've raised a little over $400 million in 15 months, most of it. We have a list of remarkable partners, largely institutional investors, financial institutions, big players in the space with whom we work. Many of them are also investors, which is part of our strategy. And below I list some of our preferred custodians. This is a snapshot of our current and imminent protocols. So we are really, again, doing our best to meet the industry where it is. So we don't favor anybody. We really develop with an ecosystem-first mentality, and that means being very broad and neutral with regard to how we invest our engineering and development resources. I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go. So what is it that makes us culturally durable and unique? At the beginning, I have this reference. We really do consider ourselves the base layer. We are the under the hood that makes the magic happen within this space. We are also, like many Web3 companies, we're remote first, we're decentralized, we're global, and like crypto, we don't sleep. We are a 24/7 organization. That does not mean that our team doesn't sleep. We actually really prioritize enabling our folks to take whatever they need to nurture themselves, take care of their lives, their families. So we actually remarkably don't do a lot of nights and weekends as an organization, but we are scattered across the globe. And so we do a pretty good job of making sure that we're covering the needs of our business all around the clock. So this poses some interesting challenges for an organization growing as fast as we did, particularly because we don't really have offices. We've barely met in person. We had our first global offsite at this scale in December, and it was the first time I would say most of us met more than 2 people with whom we've been working closely since starting. It was a little bit unnerving, actually, having 125 of us in Miami and actually meeting in 3D. And our scaling has been, again, shocking. So I joined a whole year or so before where this chart even starts. And this shows what we've done in just 1 year. This is inclusive of, obviously, key product launches, some critical moments in our fundraising trajectory, during which we welcomed some of the best investors and partners in the world onto our cap table and really into our family, because we feel like we work with our investors more like partners than capital resources. And we've also made a few key hires. We were really light on executives for the whole entire beginning of the company's history. And we just in the last few months, we've added CRO, a head of finance, and our VP GM of APAC. And we have a couple more very exciting announcements coming in the next 30 days or so for additional C-level leads that'll be joining the company. We also have a couple of acquisitions on here. Part of our growth strategy has not been acqui-hire per se, but being strategically acquisitive and really looking for complements to our product stack and our overall portfolio of offerings. It's the classic buy versus build, but then also making sure that the team that we onboard is one that is going to be from top to bottom complementary to what we're building. So what I'm focusing on is really how did we do this? And when I think about it as an operations leader, There are many things we could talk about how to scale a company. And I'm sure that members of our engineering product teams would have a different perspective on this. But my focus has really been on the people part, the team part. What makes our organization unique? How have we been able to withstand this growth, 733% headcount over a year, without a lot of drama? There are a number of demons in the room today, and I think we can all attest to the fact that we've done a really incredible job of maintaining a really healthy organization and having had very few misses in hiring and design as we go. And there's a little bit of secret sauce in that, and I'm going to share some of our perspectives in 3 parts for the duration of the talk. So, how have we done this? Really through a combination of investing in people as our heart, what we do as a culture together internally, and then third, being very thoughtful about the impact that we have with what we're building outside of ourselves. This selflessness. It's captured a bit in this chart. I really do consider the people component to be the most important of everything we do, and kind of scales out from there. This is our own version of future of work. So let's dive in a little bit. First of all, I like to point out that this is not lip service. There are a lot of organizations that have really wonderful statements about the values that they live by and how they operate, and you can hear all kinds of keynotes around the world from operations leaders about how they have developed strong companies. And I can say with abundant confidence that we actually walk our talk. Every single thing that we do within the organization is intended to be an example of what we're trying to build. And that started when we were just a few people and barely making payroll as a scrappy startup, and it endures today when we're making difficult organization, investment, hiring, building, acquiring, and even occasionally termination decisions. We really do our best to hire and then also retain best-in-class talent. We do recruit the best and the brightest, and sometimes that means being very patient. We will not bring people on board who we don't believe are a really fantastic fit for the role, and if that means waiting for months, we will do that. We'll find a way to endure until we feel like we have the right folks. One example of that is actually we had an opportunity that we sought to fill for a global lead position in October of last year. We were able to find the candidate through a recruiter in November. They signed by the end of that month, and they actually don't start until next week. They had such an important role in the company that they're leaving that it took them 4 months to kind of wind down and be able to be positioned to have a smooth transition over to Blockdaemon. It's an example of the kind of thing that we'll do. We also pay very well for our talent, and we are also really willing to reward the resources that make it possible for us to bring this star-studded team on board. So one example is this $100,000 bonus that we extended last summer to anybody who could refer an ETH2 engineer to us. We take really, really good care of our people. We have an aggressive compensation strategy that treats our talent equally around the world. We don't discriminate based on where you live if you're doing the exact same job as somebody else in Cupertino. And we also are really generous with training and support. If people want to develop while they're within Blockdaemon, we think it's critical to help them stay on board and feel inspired and better at their roles and generally more competent and capable team members or leaders. And then finally, I have this note here, which is really, again, part of the people part. This also means connecting at work. So I had a one-on-one with somebody on the team about a year ago, and instead of jumping into OKRs and what needed to happen for her part of the business, she shared with me that a parent was ill, and she was trying to figure out how she could navigate the responsibilities of work as well as this desire to go visit family. And most of the call was my encouraging her to go visit her dad and make time for that, and shared some examples of my own experience in having to learn how to prioritize family. And so we really do try to embody this as we grow. The second one is really about how we work together, another layer beyond just that people part. So if you work at Blockdaemon, you hear me say this all the time, can we do it faster and can we do it better? So part of being a global decentralized team means that We have to make decisions over Zoom or email or Slack all the time about investments in resources or people or paths or strategies. And a lot of people who come to us from their former employers are well-trained in starting with, here's a budget, this is how much it's going to cost, this is the resource I want to use, and this is how fast it can happen. And we try to flip that on its head, and we try to embody a culture that actually prioritizes doing things as well as possible and as fast as possible, even if it means spending 2 or 3 times the money that it would to do it a more conventional way, maybe as they'd been trained in a prior employer. And although it does actually cost us more out of pocket often, the return on that type of commitment and investment far exceeds the cash cost. Because this industry is changing so quickly, the market is moving so fast. We have customers, partners, and clients who expect things yesterday. And we want to be confident every step of the way that we're actually giving them the best possible solution available and as fast as possible. And we consistently do that. Sometimes best means most secure. Sometimes it means most lucrative. Sometimes it means the most customized, whatever that might be. Yeah, and I'll move on from there. So the third point that I want to highlight, beyond just the people and the culture, is actually something that I do think makes us relatively unique as an organization, and this is a notion of ecosystem impact, ecosystem first. So yes, we are very proactive. We have a conventional OKR system. We do a good job of prioritizing how we spend our most precious resource, which is not money, it's our time. But we also have this orientation around working really for the ecosystem and within the company working for our engineers. So many startups, particularly in Silicon Valley, where a number of us are based, they started because some clever MBA had some great idea. And they found a problem that they were going to solve, and they hire an engineer or designer and get a buddy, and they co-found a startup to solve this problem and change the world better than anybody else has before them. Well, the problem with that is that you end up having the developers and the real technical talent working for the vision and the dream of a business person. And it's totally different in Web3. What we are doing has nothing to do with solving cute manufactured business problems. I tell our business team all the time, we actually work for our engineers, not the other way around. And we try to instill within our technical team, our development talent, that, yeah, you guys are here not because you need the paycheck. Many of our technical talent has actually done quite well doing other projects or in their own investing in crypto for years. They're here because they love having an impact. They know that what we're building actually is going to set the tone and the foundation for what we're also focused on and excited about with Web3 and crypto and the potential for blockchain. So it's a disruptive approach, but it's one that seems to work really well. I also note here integrity. It's not a word that we see enough in crypto, in blockchain, or in Web3 companies. Why are we doing this? Are we not actually just helping to better distribute and more easily move value around the planet? And shouldn't we be doing this in a way that keeps that initial purposefulness in mind? Yes, there's plenty of money to be made along the way, but we're actually breaking a very old, centralized, and largely corrupt system of moving value. And it's wonderful to think about any company that we're in being an example of an opportunity to do this in a way that keeps the bigger, broader purpose in mind. When we think about integrity at Blockdaemon, we focus on 3 areas, or 3 kind of constituents or interested groups that apply to our company in particular. That's our team, it's our partners and customers, and it's our investors. So we default to transparency. We default to neutrality. We default to trust. We have this saying in the organization that goes, assume best intent, always. So it just helps kind of diffuse a lot of the toxicity that we have seen taken down really wonderful companies and even industries in recent years. So just a little bit of, in sum, and I tried to pull out things that really work for a whole range of organizations. They don't need to be bespoke or custom just to Blockdaemon. We really do focus on a mission that is bigger than ourselves, so this notion of selflessness. And again, this can be shown in deflecting praise in a meeting. It can be in not choosing to be the person who owns a project because somebody else actually might be better qualified. It might be encouraging a customer to go with an alternative because the alternative is better for that particular customer needs. But in the future, they'll come back because we've developed trust. I talked about integrity, the 3 legs: team, customers, and investors. We really try to weigh all 3 of those in all of our decision making. We remind our engineers and our team all the time that we are working for something bigger than ourselves. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, we really are a people-first organization. All of these things that we're able to do, all of that growth that you saw on that slide, from this scrappy, not quite making payroll startup to a $3.25 billion unicorn with some of the best investors in the world, is really attributable to the work that's done by the human beings who are running the company, not because of great code. So we really try to make sure that we affirm that in every way that we grow. We have strong team values and culture, and again, I really do believe this ecosystem-first mentality is at the core of our success. So it actually turns out that we were able to do the impossible. All of this is accessible, and I think we actually don't have time for questions, but thank you so much for your attention and time, and I'm around. I'm happy to talk with anybody after the fact.